Hello and welcome to the Virtual Expo for Homeschoolers. I am your presenter today, Shanita Williams, and we are going to discuss how to create a successful portfolio with ease. So come on along, you're in the right place. We are going to jump right into the presentation. I promise to not keep you long so that we can get right to our lesson today. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're looking for the Homeschool Virtual Expo, you are in the right place. All right, so a little bit about me. My name is Shanita Williams, and I am the Director of Training and Support with SHE LLC. And a lot of people ask me, what does the SHE stand for? It stands for Safer Home Environments. And so when I began my journey on homeschooling many moons ago, I decided that I wanted to create the safest possible educational opportunities for my children. So here's a picture of my tribe. My wonderful husband. We've been married for 17 years. I come with a background in social services, counseling, human services, human development, human behavior, and then of course, homeschooling. And I have always homeschooled my children since birth. And I have two teenagers who were in high school and a 7-year-old. So you can imagine they keep me busy. All right, so we're going to just jump right into this. I want you to make sure when you are working about your portfolio and you want to know how to begin, how to remain compliant, how to stay compliant, it's very, very important for you to know your state laws. You cannot have a successful homeschooling journey if you don't know what's required of you. So every state requires oversight of your home instruction. Some states vary, so it's important to make sure you know what your particular state requires of you. Here, I'm from Maryland. We have about 4 options that we're able to utilize, but there's only 2 options that most people utilize. One is creating a portfolio, is what we're going to talk about today. And the second option is where you would go under a certified umbrella program. So we're going to talk today briefly about how to make a plan to get your portfolio started so that you are compliant. I will recommend, if you have not heard of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, it's very imperative that you take part in screenshotting this slide to have the website, browse around. It's a great search engine for you to go to find your state laws and your state requirements. So this is a very useful tool for you to get started. All right, so now we are going to look at how things are regulated in the United States. So of course, every state is different. So you can look at this image. The photo credit for this image is also from the HSLDA website, but you can see different parts of areas have different regulation requirements. So if you are thinking about possibly relocating to a different area, or husband got a new job, wife got a new job, you're going to be closer to grandparents, or grandparents are coming closer to you, you might want to consider, if you are also going to be homeschooling, which region you want to be a part of. Because as you see from the color-coded map, if you look at the bottom of the screen, those with this very dark blue, there's no notice required. There's really no regulation at all. So like you see in the state of Texas, it's kind of the wild, wild west for all my Texas homeschoolers, right? But if you look at the lighter blue areas, that's a good, pretty much good population of the United States, has very low regulation. And again, you can go back to the HSLDA website to look at that information to see what specifically they are requiring or what their regulations are. So you look into the next area, the moderate regulation. Again, I've mentioned I am from Maryland, so my states are pretty moderate. Even though it says moderate here, I do feel like they are very easy to get along with. And all of the times that I've had to report my portfolio, I have never had an issue, but that's because of the kind of planner and organizer I am. And so I spend a lot of my time with clients who I work with and other homeschooling families that I coach, making sure they understand how to start from the beginning so that you don't have any issues. The biggest part of what I have found in all of the work that I've done with helping people with portfolios is that most of the reviewers want to ensure that you are doing what you said you were going to do. They want to make sure here in Maryland, the language of the law is regular and thorough instruction. There isn't a time frame on how many days they have to be in school. Like in public school, they have to be there 180 days. There is no time frame on that. So whether we keep attendance or not keep attendance, that is not a part of the regulation. So your job, if that's what your state is requiring, is to make sure that you remove any element of doubt, that there is regular and thorough instruction. And we're going to get into how that's done. So of course, you see a very few states with high regulation. So if you're planning on homeschooling and you want to move to those areas and you're new, you might not want to go to those areas. But those people who have been in those areas all along have probably figured out how to jump through the hoops and could probably still give you a good information session on how to manage in those high regulated areas. Okay, so the first thing you want to ask yourself is, am I techie or am I traditional? Now, I say this because after the first 7 or 8 years of me creating a portfolio, I was the traditional mom that had 3-ring binders for all of her kids, had dividers for each of the subjects that my Maryland law says that we have to provide the regular and thorough instruction. And I had papers everywhere. I mean, it was such a clutter. Everything was, it was just a mess. And I had a very modest home in my earlier years, and we did not have an identified space for homeschooling. We did it right at our kitchen table. See, now, as you get older and you kind of, figure some things out, people get fancy. They have homeschool rooms and homeschool spaces. My kitchen table was where we homeschooled. So I had to really do my due diligence and making sure that it stayed semi-neat, semi-together. So my traditional years of creating the 3-ring binders, what I would do is I would make sure all of the subjects that the law told me that I had to teach on, I had a divider for each one of those subjects. So there was a math divider, a science divider, a social studies divider. Those are your 4 core content areas in English language arts. And then I had dividers for music and art and PE and health and nutrition. Right? And so every time my students, my children, would create an assignment or complete a worksheet, I would make sure it was dated and I would put it right in there. So now, the last 6 years of my homeschooling journey, I think this is my 13th or 14th year, I've lost count. I have moved on to the Techy portfolio. And so again, based on where you're located in the world, you have to figure out what is allowable from your jurisdiction. So in my jurisdiction, they do allow you to do electronic portfolios. So some people have chosen to do PowerPoints. I've assisted some parents with doing Google Slides to kind of summarize everything in an electronic version. And then, keeping notes of your curriculum books, just to make sure you kind of can remember what it is that you have purchased and what you're going over. Some states require you to kind of do a pre-fill of what are the concepts that you've learned. That's not in every jurisdiction. So again, it's very, very important for you to know your laws. But keeping notes of the books that you use, what I would encourage people who I coach is that look in the table of contents for all of the books that you're purchasing. And again, not every subject is going to have a bound curriculum. And we're going to talk about that later, especially for those arts and PE. You want to look in the table of contents because the table of contents is going to show you everything that curriculum book is going to cover. And so if you're asked by your jurisdiction to kind of give a prequel or a summary of what it is that you've learned, you can go right to the table of contents for those books. So you kind of want to keep those organized. And if you're like me now who have older kids, you solicit them and make them a part of the presentation. They're going to have to learn it at some point. They're going to have to learn how to do a presentation. They're going to have to learn, if they haven't already by middle school, how to make Google Slides. So you can make it something more fun and less stress off of you if you have older kids. Okay, so now, how to set up your homeschool portfolio for success. So again, coaching is what I love to do, because when I started homeschooling, over a decade ago, there was not a lot of people doing it. There was not a lot of hand holding. There was not a lot of workshops like this. So what I did is created a coaching strategy where I could make sure people were set up from day one. I teach people how I wish I was taught instead of bumping my head against the wall for those first few years, but that's okay. So here's what you can do. You're gonna start on the first day of school. Now you say, Shanita, it's already in January, too late. It's okay. You can also start on the first day back in the spring. So you wanna make sure that your portfolio becomes a part of your not necessarily everyday routine, but at least weekly, if at the most minimalist opportunity, monthly. You want to be checking in. You want to be adding things. If you're doing the traditional notebook binder, you want to be adding documents to there at least once a month, probably more if you're a little less organized. But you identify your work by month. So if you're starting in January, it's almost February. So if you're going to start in February, then maybe get a couple of sheets for February, make sure they're dated. That's very important to show regular and thorough instruction, because we'll be honest, there are some homeschooling, that families that will start off real good in September and have all these dates lined up for September. Then you may see one in October and then nothing again until like Christmas break. And that is going to send red flags to your reviewer. So you want to make sure your work shows consistent dates. You also want to show some sort of communication back and forth on their assignments. Now, I've coached a lot of parents and they say, well, I don't believe in grades. I don't think that's going to measure, their mastery. And I get it. Whether you do grades or not, if you write a word, good job, excellent. If you have younger students using stickers, giving a smiley face, the reviewer just wants to see that there is some kind of communication between the work that the student has done and that the parent has graded, looked at it, provided some sort of feedback. Very, very, very important. Okay, now here's a question that I get a lot of times. Shanita, should I keep every single piece of artwork that they do? That is your choice. That's personal preference. If you want to know what I do not. There is no possible way to keep every single piece of paper, every artwork, every holiday craft. Absolutely not. I would be covered up to here like the image that's shown here with papers and papers and papers. But that's totally a personal decision. You may want to keep your little Johnny, little Sarah, and little Tamika's artwork to display. You know what other people have done? They put it in an envelope, they mail it to grandparents, they mail it to aunts and uncles, and they love it. And then it keeps your home clutter-free. All right, so for your core content subjects, again, that's your math, English language arts, science, and social studies, your 4 core subjects. My recommendation is keeping 10 to 12 pieces of evidence in your portfolio. So again, if we're going by months, that might be 3 pieces for September, 3 pieces for October, 3 pieces for November. And depending on when you shown your review, whether you do it December or January, you may want to add a few pieces. So again, this is just a recommendation. This is not set in stone. There are some people who feel like 10 is way too much. And there are some people who feel like 12 is not enough. So it's totally up to you. That's the beauty of homeschooling. You are the parent teacher. You get to decide. So my rule of thumb, I usually average about 10 to 12 pieces of evidence in each of those subjects. So in math, there's 10 to 12, language arts, there's 10 to 12, science, 10 to 12, and social studies, 10 to 12. They're all organized by date. And so I always keep the most recent date on top. Again, my job as the homeschool parent is to eliminate any element of doubt that what I'm doing is regular and it's thorough. And again, regular is loosely defined in Maryland state law, but if I show you consistently every month that we have these things done, I have done my job. Now, for your more elective courses or things that are non-core subjects, like your PE, your music, your health, your art, those subjects, my recommendation is anywhere between 6 to 8. Again, It's just a loose recommendation. It's just to give you a platform. Because these subjects, PE, music, health, and art, if you can think about it, when you were in grade school or middle school, we didn't do those subjects every day. And so that's why these are considered your non-core subjects or your electives. So for me, I think 6 to 8 pieces are sufficient. And I've been using this model, this framework for my own personal homeschool portfolios. And guess what? All of mine have been compliant. I've never had an issue where they've called me back in to say, I don't think these 6 pages for music is enough, or I don't think these 7 pages for art is enough. Never once had an issue. Okay, now, another question I receive a lot is, what about purchasing curriculum for the non-core subjects? Now, most people will typically buy curriculum for math and language arts, and for the most part, science and social studies, right? But when it comes down to the non-core content subjects, some people feel like, I'll tell you, I've never purchased a PE curriculum. I've never purchased a music curriculum. I've never purchased the art or a health curriculum. Okay, what I've done is I've come up with a couple of different workbooks that I will use from time to time. Now, with PE, if your child is in organized sports, this is where this says pictures are worth 1,000 words. So parents, you already take a ton of pictures anyway. Now, I have gone through my phone and had to back up to the backup of Google Slides. I'm an Android, by the way. Sorry, Apple, right? I have backed up all of my pictures. I have them in different folders and different categories. You're taking them anyway, right? Use those pictures to show your regular and thorough instruction. So for example, when your kid is going swimming, bowling, anything that's physical, you can weave in education in there at some point. So that becomes some physical education pictures. So they're swimming, bowling, they're going to that birthday party from a classmate. You just kind of exclude the classmates from the picture while your baby is up there, hopefully getting a strike, snap a picture. They're going to vacations. When we go to vacations, and I know my family travels, we tend to try to explore some things. So we've done rock climbing, not skiing quite, but snow tubing, right? You can do all of those things and count it for some kind of physical education because they are being physical. And I'm sure there's some kind of training in education when, you're teaching them to bowl and how to line up the ball, right? When they're going rock climbing, you usually have to listen to a presentation from the workers about safety. So all of that, it counts. And so one of the things that I want to encourage you guys today is that homeschooling becomes who you are as a family. It's not just something you do on Monday through Friday. You're not having to be tied to the desk in traditional school hours. So if your child is playing any kind of organized sports, baseball, soccer, football, basketball, volleyball, lacrosse, all of those things obviously will count for your PE requirement. So what's helpful is you kind of keep a log of class times and dates and submit it. And I'm telling you, the reviewers love the pictures. They get into it. All right, so health. Purchasing a health curriculum, I think this is the only one that I have purchased. So I take that back earlier. I've purchased a couple books for health, but we've only used them to kind of use more unit studies where you kind of isolate a particular subject. But when your kids are learning to make snacks when they're younger, or if they're older and they're cooking, snap pictures of it. Snap pictures of them plating. When they go to the dentist, when my kids were younger and they would go to the dentist and they didn't get cavities, they got to take a picture and they were on the wall of the No Cavity Club. I would incorporate all of that into kind of health and science. When they would go to the doctors for their annual physical, they would get blood drawn. I would show not necessarily all of the data on the blood work report, but just showing so they understood. Again, homeschooling becomes who you are. So everything becomes a learning opportunity. Everything is not a formal instruction. There are a lot of things that become informal education, like those things. OutSchool is a really good resource for just kind of a one-off classes, social emotional learning activities, library programs, when they have those things, crafts. Take pictures, take lots of pictures. And those pictures are your pieces of evidence. So you don't have to have the worksheet all the time. pictures will also suffice. Music, same thing. If they play an instrument, they sing in a choir, they're acting in a play, in a neighborhood play or a school play. Maybe you have a podcast, or they help with the equipment. They're working with the audio equipment. Maybe they like to sing. Just take pictures of them while they're in church on Sunday using a microphone or somewhere else. All of those things count. So you already take the pictures, you might as well let them count. So I hope this is giving you a little bit of encouragement. I hope it's giving you just a little bit more insight to not fearing making a portfolio, but definitely knowing how to start it from the beginning. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed the topic today. Future topics that I hope to share with the Homeschool Expo will be working in homeschooling. Can it really be done? How to select the perfect curriculum. Homeschooling in a post-pandemic world. You guys know we're all going through some of the same stuff here with the pandemic, but just keep these dates in mind. The Homeschool Expo is doing a fabulous job of lining up presenters for you to encourage you, to keep us all encouraged. The April 28th, July 28th, October 27th, please, please, please put those dates on your calendars. Okay, and here, of course, everyone loves stuff for free. So I've compiled a list of a lot of the free resources that I've personally used and some people have recommended to me. So feel free to screenshot the slide here and use some of these, at your own convenience. A lot of these things you can get free worksheets for your evidence. So I hope, guys, this was super, super helpful. I'm really encouraged to be here and just sharing my expertise and the things that I have learned along the way. Portfolios do not have to be hard. They do not have to be cumbersome. If you can get organized, then it will be a breeze. If you stay on task with checking in with that portfolio, at least, again, I'm gonna say once a month if you're pretty organized, but maybe twice a month if organization is just not your jeu, then, checking in with it. I promise you, the first 5 years of my homeschooling, we would just get so enthralled with all of the work, everything that we were doing. And guess what? I would forget to put things together. Papers were everywhere. I would have to look for, oh my gosh, where is that science experiment sheet that we did? And I didn't have a system, and it was nerve-wracking. It was like driving me bananas. And I would wait until like December 10th, when I was already exhausted from the fall semester, trying to utilize my winter break to muster up the energy to pull it together. And it felt like a daunting task. And for some reason, it just didn't dawn on me. Start from day one of the fall semester. Start from day one of the spring semester. Because here in Maryland, we have to do 2 portfolios, a fall one and a spring one. And so now what I have done is I have learned to use I have learned to use Google Drive to keep an electronic review. So in my jurisdiction, if you've had 2 successful face-to-face traditional reviews, they'll allow you to do it electronically. So now I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to meet with anybody. I do it all through Google Drive. So at the beginning of each fall semester, I will go into Google Drive and I will create a folder. And in that folder, I will label it Fall Homeschool Portfolio and open up that folder. Then what I do is create 8 additional folders for each of the subjects that my law tells me that I need to provide regular and thorough instruction on. And then as they're doing schoolwork, I'm like, oh, let me see that science page. I'll grab my phone, snap a picture, send it right to the drive, send it directly to that folder. Guess what? Don't have to think about it no more. It's done. And I do that for all of the subjects. For math, oh, let me see that math test that we just finished and I graded. Come over here real quick. Boom, boom. Took 2 pictures of the 2 pages of the test, shared it right to the Google Drive folder, sent it right to the math section folder of that homeschool folder. We're done. We're done. So that's how I do my homeschooling portfolio with ease. I learned to start from day one. You can learn to start from day one. It'll make the portfolio review a little more expedient. You won't dread the emails when they come through your jurisdiction. Hey, we're ready for reviews. And you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't done anything. I haven't put it together yet. So hopefully this presentation was helpful. I really hope that you walk away encouraged and just feeling refreshed, like you can get a handle on this portfolio. As long as you understand your state laws, and your state laws can be very specific, you can start from day one to create a successful portfolio with ease. So again, I am Shanita Williams. Thank you so much for tuning into the presentation today. I hope you enjoy all the other presenters, and we hope to see you back for the other expos coming up in the spring, summer, and fall. Have a great day and happy homeschooling. Goodbye.